Welcome to Lair of the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, a review of the new Deep Purple album, Whoosh. Yes, you have to say it like that for maximum effect. Whoosh. What a great album title. I love it. And the cover is very cool also. It has a sort of a disintegrating uh, spaceman on the cover, which I think is great. At this point, I don't have a physical copy of it yet. It just came out yesterday, Friday. Today is August, I don't know, August 8th or something like that. So the album just came out. I haven't got my physical copy yet, have just been listening on Spotify. This is the 21st album from Deep Purple. Deep Purple at this point in their career are basically rock royalty. They have been around since the late 60s. They've gone through various lineup changes. And at this point in their career, in my opinion, they've settled into a nice, comfortable groove. They seem to be having fun. They're not trying to change the world or prove anything at this point. They don't need to prove anything at this point. Like I said, they are legends. I'll be honest with you that the classic lineup of Deep Purple with Ritchie Blackmore and John Lord, albums like Machine Head, In Rock, Perfect Strangers are some of my favorite hard rock albums of all time. Ritchie Blackmore is probably my favorite guitar player of all time. So it's a little challenging for me with New Deep Purple because I'm always sort of referencing or hearing in my head the classic Deep Purple. But with all that said, I think that with Steve Morse on guitar in the band and Don Airey on keyboards now, the band has carved out a nice sound for themselves with the new members. For me, it's almost impossible to not think back to the old Deep Purple and make some comparisons. But I think on its own, it stands on its own merit. At this point, this is the fifth album without John Lord. John Lord tragically passed away in 2012. Steve Morse has been in the band for, I didn't count. I think this is maybe like his seventh album with the band. So Steve Morse has been in the band for a while. The album was produced by Bob Ezrin. I think the production is really good on it. I love Bob Ezrin. He's one of my favorite producers. I would say Bob, he's known a lot for putting in instrumentations. Like he did Destroyer. He did Alice Cooper's Billion Dollar Babies, Pink Floyd The Wall. And a lot of times Bob gets involved with orchestrations and things like that. And I wouldn't say that there's that much of that on this record. But overall, the album is very well produced. All the frequencies are in check. It's nice and warm. It's not too fatiguing on the ears with the loudness wars and crush the dynamic range. It's got a lot of dynamic range. The guitars sound great. The bass sounds great. The drums sound great. You can hear everything. It's a very pleasing listen. So let's get into the album. For me, it's 13 tracks at 51 minutes, and in my opinion, that's a little bit much. There's 3 or 4 songs on this record that don't really do it for me. They're a little too same tempo, mid tempo rock. They don't really jump out at me. If maybe they had dropped 3 or so of these songs, dropped it down to 10 or 9 songs, the album would have been a lot stronger in my opinion. Ian Gillan sounds good on this record. Great on this record. It is lacking a little bit for me, though. He sings a lot in a sort of mid-range style. I don't think there are no legendary Ian Gillan style screams on this record. And hey, I get it. These guys are in their 70s at this point. He can't or doesn't want to do that style of singing anymore. I do kind of wish that there was a little bit more oomph in the vocals at times. I wish he could sang with a little bit more that sort of Ian Gillan snarl and a little bit of venom sometimes. That does come through in the track No Need to Shout, where in my opinion Ian gets into that little more, a slightly more aggressive It's a song with a really cool kind of bluesy guitar line type riff song. Reminds me a little bit of, again, classic Deep Purple. So I wish there was a little bit more of that from Ian on this record. I wish he had pushed his range just a little bit more, but he seems to have settled into sort of this nice mid-range part of his voice. And the lyrics are cool in typical Ian Gillan fashion. There's a lot of tongue twisting things and a lot of cool topics. So, but for me, okay, the first track on the album I really like, Throw My Bones, has kind of a funky guitar riff, da 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 da, and it has this cool like synthesizer string type sound. It's got a really catchy chorus, a great guitar solo. But then, unfortunately, the album it gets a little to what I said earlier about sort of the same tempo, mid-tempo type stuff. Drop the Weapon. I didn't really care for that. I thought the lyrics were a little awkward in that, and the chorus was like okay, but it wasn't great for me. Two others on the record that I didn't really care for to come a little bit later. What the What, which is like a blues rocker that just doesn't work for me. I don't like the lyrics in it. It's sort of a play on words, what the what, instead of what the, curse word inserted. Long Way Around is another one that just sort of didn't do anything for me. And as I was listening to it, and I was maybe like 4 or 5 songs into the album, I was thinking, this is going to kind of be like a 7 out of 10 for me, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. I thought, this is probably something I'm not going to be revisiting a whole lot. But then the last half of the album, it really kicks in for me. Power of the Moon is it is great kind of sounds like a Ritchie Blackmore style thing. It has this, for us you guitar players out there, this modal type feel to it, which gives it like this sort of Middle Easternish, Egyptian type, Blackmore-ish type vibe. Maybe that's why it appeals to me. Remission Possible. What a cool song title, right? Awesome. It's a short, cool little instrumental with this really cool opening organ riff. I wish it was a little bit longer. Actually, it's kind of brief. Man Alive is a really cool one. It's progressive, and it's atmospheric, and it's got all these nice changes. It's got this spoken word part in it that's really cool. And The Address, which is a remake of the first song on the first Deep Purple album. The first Deep Purple album was called Shades of Deep Purple, and it's an instrumental, but it's sort of a modern remake of it with some extra little things thrown in, and it's got some great guitar solos. There's a great organ solo and great sort of interplay between the guitar and organ. Love it. It reminds me of the song And the Address. In fact, when I was listening to it, I was listening to it and I wasn't looking at the song titles, and I said, whoa, this sounds like something that could have been off one of their early albums. And I was like, this even sounds familiar. And then when I looked at the title, I was like, wait a minute, this is off of their first album. So it's kind of cool. They do it in a remixed way. I really like that. Dancing in My Sleep. It has this cool kind of keyboard sequencer thing. It's got a really catchy chorus. So those are like the last half of the album, which to me, the album really sort of starts to come to life for me. But there are some other really good songs on here too. All the Same in the Dark has a great chorus. It's got some cool backing vocals with Ian doing like these ahs and stuff like that. There isn't a whole lot of that on this record, a whole lot of layered vocals. So that one sort of jumps out at me for that. Nothing at All is a fun one. It's a sort of happy sounding one, if you will. It's got this guitar lick that's really kind of light and spriteful, and the keyboard sort of echoes it, and it's got this really fun chorus in it. And the lyrics are kind of cool too, about just kind of like forget about the world's troubles, and with everything we're living in right now, the song kind of resonated with me. Maybe something we need right now. So a fun one. I mentioned No Need to Shout earlier. It's one of the few ones to me where Ian seems to sort of kick it up a notch and add a little bit of venom to his sound. Step by Step has a cool church organ intro, a kind of a mysterious vibe to it, and some like a classical keyboard kind of part. I should mention the keyboards on this. Don Airey is an amazing keyboard player. He's played with tons of hard rock and heavy metal artists from the '70s on up. And I love his playing on it. I think his playing is great. I would say, again, this is me going back to the classic Deep Purple. I wish there was a little bit more aggressiveness and grit on his keyboard sound. To me, it sounds a little, uh, it sounds a little too clean or something. And again, maybe it's just in my mind, John Lord. He's so much the sound of Deep Purple, but he does a great job. He has these sort of classical flourishes here and there, which I think are really, really cool. There's a song on here where he does a piano. It sounds like a grand piano type solo. It almost sounds like a honky tonk style like piano solo. It's really cool. And he has a lot of cool little sounds that come in and out on the record. So uh, Steve Morse, again, hard to get Blackmore out of my mind. At this point, Blackmore's been out of the band for so long, but hey, what can I say? He's my favorite guitar player. I think Steve Morse does a great job. I like his guitar sound. I especially love his lead guitar sound. He's very tasteful. He doesn't overplay. He's a guy that has a lot of chops, and he could certainly overplay if he wants to. But when it's time for him to shine, like in And the Address, he certainly does. Ian Pace, an amazing drummer who in some ways I think doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Uh, a lot of times when people think of great hard rock drummers, they think of Neil Peart, John Bonham. Those are the first names mentioned, but Ian Pace just has an amazing feel, and he's got a lot of, I think it's in And the Address, he has a lot of really cool drum fills, and he just sounds great on the record overall. So overall, it's a good record. It's not going to unseat any of my favorite Deep Purple records. At this point in their career, I don't think you could really ask for anything more from Deep Purple at this point. It's a fun record. There's catchy songs on it. Like I said, if it was a little shorter, dropped two or three of these songs, it would have been even better for me. There's, again, at times it's a little too one tempo, mid tempo. I could have maybe went for a nice ballad on this, a nice slow number. I think that would have helped with the flow of everything. But overall, it's a great record. I would give it an 8 out of 10 in my book. So there you go. This is going to kind of launch me. I want to go back and listen to some more of these more recent Deep Purple records. It's been a while for me. This album got me excited, and I did enjoy it. So check it out, Deep Purple, Whoosh, out there now. So let me know what you think in the comments of this record, and make sure you hit subscribe and like. And until we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.